Welcome back to the Mindfuls podcast, hosted by yours truly, Siobhan Higgins, sports psychology consultant and professional soccer player. Today, we're going to dive away from soccer and into the running world. And so today we have a special guest, Jonathan Capo, who I made a great connection with through a previous relationship. And we're going to discuss all things running and how you conquered Houston. Welcome.
Let's go. I'm excited to be here.
And of course, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
We're greened out.
Yeah. Should have worn some boppers or a lei or something, but it's all good.
No, the tee will suffice. It looks cool.
Awesome.
But okay, let's dive in. You run, and for me, I'm a soccer player. Running is not my favorite. I do it because I have to stay in shape, but those who actually use running as a sport or I don't know, an outlet, it amazes me. And so I want to dive deeper into kind of like why you started running, all the things. I'm going to ask so many more questions, but for the audience to know, John runs a lot and very far, and he's already accomplished some really great things. And so first question, what got you into running, especially long distance?
Yeah, I mean, I've had journeyed through many stages. In middle school, I did cross country. I was on the team. I was back of the pack, middle of the pack at best. But I really did just enjoy running. You know, every practice, putting my headphones on, listening to some tunes. Mm-hmm. Even I love the shirts that said something like, "Our sport is your sport's punishment," or something like that. And to me, running was just always relaxing, meditative, even from a very young age. I kind of dropped down in high school, wasn't as into it, but I went to Rice for undergrad, and a lot of great places to run there. Obviously the Outer Loop Trail around the campus, but you got Herman Park, you got the Brays Bayou. And to me, as an outlet from school and social life and everything that's going on there, it was really nice to just use that as a way to unwind. And it was not uncommon for me to put down 9 miles, 10 miles, like sophomore year. Eventually I learned of Memorial Park and going up to the running, biking trails over there. And it certainly escalated more after I got out of college, that I sort of saw it was such a dynamic sport in the ways that you can challenge yourself, right? There's speed, there's distance, there's time, there's streaks, there's elevation, there's places, you know. People joke it's the cheapest sport in the world. All you need is a pair of shoes. And sometimes I kind of think of soccer or sort of ultimate frisbee, those kind of sports, very simple in that it's just an application of running, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I feel like it's it's great in that way. And I've gone from college into remote tech world. I've worked in software as a service tech companies since I graduated, and I never have had an office. So for me, working from home pretty much all the time, doing something to get me outside during the day really helped for me as a way to mentally transition from I'm at home, I'm at work, to I'm at home, I'm chilling, I'm hanging out.
Yeah.
And especially during COVID is when I really started to accelerate it. And I all of a sudden had no social life, no obligations at all. Bars were closed, restaurants, all that. So I really started making it a 6-day-a-week, 7-day-a-week thing. And then I started to set personal challenges for myself that were run 2,000 miles in a year, which 40 miles a week, 6 a day, takes some commitment.
It does.
And then I worked my way up. I did 2,500 and then I did 3,000. And then I, of course, pushed in a different way with this Streets of Houston project that we'll get into.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's very incredible. I have a lot of questions from what you just told me. So first, you mentioned that you use running kind of as an outlet because, you know, your career right now is challenging, but also at Rice, what was your major?
I was math and statistics.
So I would be running too if I was doing that. But but seriously, that was for you. It was an outlet for stress, or like you were just trying to stay in shape, or like I need to run. Like most people say, runners are running from something, and I don't know. Do you think that's true?
I think any sort of concerns you have in your social life, it's at least a temporary alleviation from that, going for a run and really just going full myopic in the zone. My thoughts are roaming freely, not staring at a computer screen as I do the other 23 hours of my day, basically.
Okay, so another question that came to mind right now was, whenever you're running, what are you thinking about? And a few, I guess. What are you thinking about? And do you listen to music while you run? Is it the same music? Is it a podcast? How do you do it?
I do it most of the time with music. And again, most of the time I sort of have in my head where I'm going to go.
Okay.
Navigating every street in Houston is a little bit different, but most of the time I wake up, I say, all right, I'm going to run this many miles today, and I'm going to run this route. I haven't been on this route in the last week. If you're running 40, 50 miles a week, it helps to have some variation, right? I would probably go crazy doing that around a running track every day. But yeah, I wake up and I say, all right, I'm going to do this much. And so there's not much thought going on in my head during a run of here's how I'm going to get there. I'm just listening to music and going where my thoughts take me, and usually not thinking about much. I'm just calming down from what is otherwise a chaotic day most of the time.
Yeah, that's cool. So you just zone in and focus, and you just kind of go.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. And if there's a problem that's bugging me at work, or if there's a friendship relationship that I want to take some time to think about, that'll probably pop up during the run, right? But it's not like I go to focus on something.
Yeah, kind of use it as an outlet, but if something's going on at the time, it'll pop up and you can kind of work through it while you're running.
Yeah, cool. Exactly.
And would you say that what's going on dictates your speed?
Not as much as how much I'd run the last 2 or 3 days.
Oh, why do you say that?
Well, so I'm not someone who puts a strict regiment together of I'm going to do this route every day. I'm going to do speed exercises. I'm going to do fartlek, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to do hills this day. I'm going to do sprints, whatever. So usually I'm just going out at my fast jog pace. And
which is, tell us.
Oh, I mean, these days it's like 7:30 to 7-minute miles most of the time. Yeah.
Okay.
And usually I'm just in there, and sometimes I'll realize, wow, I'm going quick today. Let me gun it and see how fast I can get this segment down to, or something like that. I set most of my personal best times in 2021, and I haven't quite gotten back there.
Oh.
So since starting the Running the Streets of Houston project, I haven't been pushing my pace. Or a lot of people say, I want to get this time in the 10K. I want to get this time in the half marathon, full marathon. I have not been focusing on that, but it's another opportunity on the back burner.
Yeah.
Right?
Opportunities to set new goals as well. Because my other question I do have is if you compete or if you join races, because I don't know if you do. No? Not
often. I mean, you'd probably see me posting with my medal and shirt every time, but I've gotten to the point where what I get out of doing a 20-mile plus like marathon distance of a run is that personal satisfaction of, yes, another one, tally, check it off the list.
Awesome.
Maybe I set a goal of 100 marathons in my lifetime, something like that, right? If I'm going to do that, I don't need to pay $150 to do every single one just to have more t-shirts and medals sitting in my closet. I'm confident enough, having done, I think, 12 at this point, that as long as I have enough water, I have enough nutrition, electrolytes, that I just really have to exert myself for 4 hours, and I can get something like that done. But if you're going to push yourself from a pace perspective, then you need to be careful, right? Because obviously you can go too hard out the gate, and you can end up in a position where you're injuring yourself from doing something like that.
Yeah, definitely. So you primarily compete with yourself, not with others. Is that correct?
That's what I tell everyone.
Yeah.
You know, I think that racing against yourself is the best thing that you can do. And don't get me wrong, I see somebody on the course 100 feet in front of me, I'm like, I got this guy for sure. But it's a great way to get better without putting too much extrinsic pressure on yourself. I think like any sport, like any sport really, you have this intrinsic need to sort of compare yourself to others. Am I doing well? And enter an app like Strava, right? Which is really great for seeing where people are running, seeing how people are running. But you see their pace, you see all this kind of stuff. And if you're saying, oh, I'm never going to be as good as this guy.
Yeah.
Like that's not going to motivate you to go out and put in another 10K on a weeknight or whatever it is you're trying to push yourself towards. If you're just saying, I want to be better than myself in some way, and that's why, as I said, it's great. It's a dynamic sport. You can do this in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Then that's, to me, a good way to define success.
That's awesome. I would also mention, because you mentioned that you're not extrinsically motivated. So for those of us who don't know, but intrinsically motivated people tend to stay in their sport or stick to their goals longer because you're constantly in competition with yourself and you're setting a new goal, like exactly what you're doing right now. So that's awesome. And then also the fact that you diversify your training as well. So could you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, how do you decide what you're going to do today or tomorrow? Do you take off days? And then also interested to hear on how you feed yourself. How do you give yourself the energy? What's your diet?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I calculate the weeks, right? And especially as I was breaking down here's 2,000 miles a year, here's 3,000 miles a year. 3,000 was the highest one. So that's 60 a week. I got to allocate that many miles to my week. And I have some sort of social pressures. We're going out to dinner. I don't know. We're going to the baseball game. God knows what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I want to plan around that a little bit first. And I usually look like 2 or 3 days back when I say what today's distance should be. So if I'm doing more than a half marathon someday, I'll probably do less than 10 the next day, just out of the sake of not overdoing it. Mm-hmm. And I certainly take rest days as well. And I do usually the stationary bike at least 1 day a week. And I do yoga now 2 days a week.
Wait, where? Or just on your own?
Just YouTube yoga. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But we should go to yoga sometime.
Yeah,
we definitely now that you're on your teaching route.
Yeah.
It'd be great. That has been a fairly recent addition, though. I will be honest. I was not really into it until I turned maybe 29.
Okay.
And that was the year I was doing 60 miles a week. And at some point, my hip flexor TFL band, what exactly it is, I'm not 100%, did start to act up more and more. And it felt more and more sore after long runs. And that's when I started working yoga in there. And you're quite literally stretching the soreness away. Nice. Before or after a long run, like 15, 20 plus, I'll do yoga usually twice a week now. I'm getting pretty good about it lately.
Good. It's also really great for your core and for your breathing.
Oh yeah. I mean, you start with a solid core and everything else will flow from there.
Yes.
Whether you're a runner or not, that's tried and true philosophy.
I agree.
And you mentioned what I eat.
Yes.
I actually have been vegetarian for the most part for a year and a half. Yeah, it was actually prompted by a wedding, around a year and a half. And as you do at weddings, you don't treat your body very well. I said, all right, I'm going to do vegetarian for 2 weeks to sort of cleanse myself and keep on this running journey. And I felt so great after that I didn't want to go back. That was did 300 miles in a month, so 10 a day. That was, I think, my peak still. And yeah, just body feels really good. All the other reasons are great. You know that you're helping protect the environment. It's cheaper, and it's honestly even nice to not have as many options on the menu to think from that. That cuts it down quite a bit. So and I'll cheat a little bit. Like I'll eat fish if I'm invited to sushi or something. I'll get like 1 out of 3 rolls with fish in it or something like that. But
or mala Sichuan.
Oh, I mean, yeah. You got to do the fish like a family style. Yeah, get some mapo tofu in there though.
Okay, yeah.
So I go by that, but I eat quite a lot, and most of the time it's snacks. My kryptonite is goldfish crackers.
Is it?
Yeah, but I've started making my own granola, started making my own hummus. Wow. That is always a really good one to have on deck. You know, you save a lot cost per pound by just making it yourself versus buying that at the store.
I'm going to have to get into that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you can cook so much food, vegetarian, like wide variety of food. You're not one bit limited in that regard, for sure.
Do you meal prep at all for the week, or is it just kind of spontaneous?
Yeah, well, I mean, that is definitely a privilege. Working from home is not having any social pressure to go out and spend $15 on a sandwich for lunch.
Yeah.
I usually try to not eat lunch out ever. So just always have some meal on deck. Usually that means like cooking on Sunday and Monday and then writing that out for the week, something like that. I'll try to cook at least 2 or 3 times a week and have that span.
Okay.
So you could call that meal prep. I don't do the cute little matching dishes or anything.
Yeah, no, it just happens that way.
Yeah.
If you just make more and you're like, I'll eat this for the next day too.
Yeah,
okay.
100%.
So beverages, what is your go-to beverage? Is it just water? Do you do any liquid IV, any Pedialyte? What would you recommend to runners?
Ooh, that's a good question. I only do water and I carry a water bottle with me no matter how short the run. Okay. I'll carry a hydration bladder on my back if it's half marathon or more usually. I only put water in those because if you start putting electrolytes in your nice Camelback bladder, it'll get really nasty really fast. You got to be really diligent about washing it if you're going to do that.
Okay.
For me, if I'm doing like a full marathon, I will take capsule form electrolytes. Like it's almost like a pill.
Okay.
It's easier than lugging a bottle of Powerade in addition to lugging a hydration bladder on you, and you just gotta open a bottle, pop one, and put it right back. Otherwise, I've tried all of them, right? Pedialyte, liquid IV. I think any recovery is good. I'm a simple man. I just go with Powerade after a long run.
Nice. What's your go-to flavor?
Oh,
I feel like it's gonna be grape, but
I was gonna say blue. What even is the blue one called?
I don't know. Power something.
Yeah.
Mist.
We'll check that in post production.
Yeah. Okay. So simple guy. Nice, because running long distances is foreign to me, so I wouldn't really know what to bring, what type of equipment to bring, or if anything. And would you go ahead and just recommend any type of like running shorts or shoes or supplements? Do you even eat like those gels in between runs, or do you stop? I have so many questions.
Oh yeah. With me for shoes, I'm loyal to people more than I'm loyal to brands. I have a friend who's worked in the
Fleet Feet.
No. He's actually been a product designer for Sperry, who is under the umbrella of Saucony. So got many Sauconys through him. Now he's at Ultra. Gotten many Ultras through him. I think Ultra's definitely the best shoe for running on the trails. running on the road, there are a lot of big names in there: Saucony, Hoko, Brooks. The list goes on. I don't know if I would pick or choose one favorite. The other question was with shorts. No, I don't have a brand necessarily for
You're just wearing
clothing. Whatever. Yeah. As long as it's a breathable shirt, that's one that you don't wear cotton when you go
there
running,
you go.
especially in Houston, Texas, where it's like
humid as hell.
So humid. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. What was my other question? Oh yeah, supplements or any type of
nutrition during a run. Yeah, I think the numbers that they say are, if you're going to run for more than an hour, you should have the number of calories that your body weighs in kilograms. So
okay.
I don't know, 60 kilograms, something like that for me. And if you're having 60 calories per hour of running, if I'm doing a 4-hour marathon, that's like 240 to maybe 300, 250 calories. I just like the Cliff blocks. The gels are, I don't know, I think the gels are kind of gross. They're hard to squeeze all of the bottom of it out, but a block you can just pop and keep going. I don't usually stop to eat nutrition.
Okay.
In a pinch, I'll go gummy worms.
Really?
You just need energy that your body can consume quickly and turn into energy. The longer runs, if you're gonna do, and the longest I've done is 46. I've not done a 50-mile or. Yeah, the 46 was the Grand Canyon, where you go down, across, down, and back. So it's quite a bit of elevation as well. But I think if you're going to do even that much, honestly, but 50, 100K, that kind of stuff, you need to actually have some protein so that your body isn't just burning simple carbs and fats, because you'll run out of your glycogen storage and could seriously damage yourself if you're that low.
Okay. Wow.
But yeah, a Grand Canyon run, I had a wide variety of things, but that was like 13 or 14 hours for me. So I was stopping and walking quite a bit, not like a marathon where I would try to go the entire time without taking a pause.
Yeah. And so the other thing you brought to mind was, you mentioned Grand Canyon. So a lot of people don't know, but John was a digital nomad at some point in time, which is really how I came to know you, because I was living in your house when you were not there. But could you tell us, I mean, you've been a lot of places, but could you tell us your favorite places to be, or favorite places you have ran? And then you've run with other people, right? Do you ever like meet up with them and then ask them to come with you? Do you slow down for them? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the world's an amazing place. I hate to admit it, but if I had to choose running versus hiking for the rest of my life, I would probably choose hiking.
Really?
And there's trail running, obviously. You can meet in the middle, but I love to be out in nature more than I love just a nice urban trail. And I do love a nice urban trail, don't get me wrong. Something where you're along a river or a lake, or even the bayou in Houston is really great, and it's good to be outside. But something where you go up to a top of a mountain, get to see a lake, or get a nice viewpoint, or see wildlife or something like that. Those are my favorite. So the best hike type thing that I've done is the Tour de Mont Blanc, which is one of the most famous ultra marathons as well, where you go run from France to Italy to Switzerland and back to France in the Alps, and it's like 110 miles. Hiking it in 7 days, I was blown away that there are people who do this one thing nonstop in less than 24 hours. Maybe one day I'll work my way up there, and you can have me back on the podcast.
Yes.
We'll see.
Well, don't say maybe. Just set the goal now.
That's right. Well, again, so many other goals I've got on the mind as well. But great. I mean, I've seen great city trails all over the country, and I'm truly grateful and blessed to have had the opportunity and the freedom to just go and run down Toronto or Minneapolis or Denver or Calgary or Seattle or Portland, pretty much all those cities have a nice trail going through the middle, maybe something where you can find some elevation in there. But as a Houston boy, born and raised, Memorial Parks, bike trails, hold the number one spot in my heart, just because. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's your baby.
You can get it, and you're minutes from the Galleria, you're minutes from downtown, but you're just completely alone in the wilderness. It feels like out there.
It is nice. Yeah, I had my fair share of running over there, and they've expanded to where there's a bigger trail now. A little bit.
Yeah, no, the Memorial Park has had a lot of improvements in the last 3 years, and it's probably a hot take, but I would call it top 20 urban park in the U.S.
Really? Well, I mean, I feel like your
I can,
opinion holds
this
value.
is some opportunity. Maybe I start making a little. I don't know if I have the energy to make a little blog
right?
with all my ratings.
I'll manage it.
Oh yeah, I could use some help.
So let's dive into it. So John ran every single street in 610 loop last year. Is that correct?
22 and 23. It took me, since I was out and about. I wasn't in Houston all of those 2 years, but between January 22 and technically January 24, I went up and down all 2,000 miles of streets within Houston's 610 loop.
Which is fucking crazy and a very cool accomplishment. So congrats.
Thank you.
Could you tell us what gave you that idea? I feel like you were running. You're like, hey, I'm filling up a gap. I might as well do the whole thing. But that's just what I thought. But yeah, what made you do that? And then how long did it take you to accomplish that? And then you can share any type of, I don't know, funny things that happened along the way. I remember reading your post saying like,
all kind of anecdotes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're going through and seeing everybody's life in just a very short snapshot. I was clued into the idea at the start of 22. My roommate at the time sent me a video, and everyone should check this video out. It's really great. It's called Every Single Street with Ricky Gates. It was sponsored by Solomon, the shoe company. Okay. It's like 20 minutes long, but it's a guy who went up and down every street in the San Francisco Peninsula. And I think it's only like an eighth of the 610 loop, but he did it in like a month. The dude was cranking out like a marathon a day. So kudos to the guy. It was a really beautiful snapshot of the city of San Francisco, just him getting to be a part of it.
Yeah. And you ran there recently, correct? In San Francisco?
San Francisco, yeah. Anyway, my roommate sent me the video and he said, hey, you should do this for your next running project, or you should finish this year, I think. And I was like, okay, there's no way in the world I could finish every street in Houston in 1 year.
Yeah, not realistic.
You go like Houston, Texas address, you got Kingwood in there, you got...
Exactly.
Right, yeah, all the way out to Cypress, all the way out to Katy until it flips. No, thank you. But I said, okay, 610 loop, how big is that? I had no idea. There's no correct answer on the internet. It'll tell you that the road is, I think, 38 or 40 miles long. It covers between 90 and 100 square miles. 500,000 people call the 610 loop their home. 500,000 people live inside the loop. Okay. Those are the only truly correct answers that I could discern from going online. But I just started. I'm like, all right, it's January 2nd. The Christmas decorations are still up in the Heights. And I live in sort of the Heights area. Yeah. And I just said, all right, up and down, up and down, up and down, side to side, side to side, side to side. It's a grid system there. It's pretty easy to kind of logically deduce what the fastest way to do it would be. And yeah, I did between Shepherd and Yale, between I-10 and 610 in the first 3 days. 2, 3, and second, third, and fourth. And I posted about it on Instagram. I was like, what do you guys think about this? And a lot of people commented. There's like, oh, seems kind of sketchy, not a lot of pedestrian friendly spots. Yeah. But most people are like, yeah, that's perfect. It seems like the total right thing for you. Because I'm also a big maps and geography nerd. Okay. I could spend all my free time on Google Maps. Just learning more about the world. It's kind of crazy how wide our world varies. So yeah, I started it then and just very slowly started cranking away at it. There are obviously quite a lot of less affluent parts of town that I never would have thought to visit before doing something like this. And it only took me a couple, like the weekends I was going out there, because I run after work. I run between like 4 and 7 in the afternoon, usually is right for me. So I was like, okay, I don't want to sit in 5 o'clock traffic, go all the way to the other side of town. I'll do that on the weekends first. And seeing some of the less affluent parts of town, I said, I know I can do this, but the people are not going to be the problem. It's the dogs that are going to be the problem.
The dogs.
Yeah, there are a lot of stray dogs that run around by the railroad tracks or some of these poor neighborhoods, and they see someone running. I don't know, maybe it's that mailman instinct they got. But I was chased quite a few times.
Oh my gosh.
And I was probably only like 3 months into the project when I mentioned to a friend that I was doing this, and he says, my dad was riding a bike and got bit by a dog and had to go to the hospital. And I said,
oh my gosh.
Oh, okay. Well, and there's silent in the car for like 5 minutes. I said, maybe I'll carry pepper spray with me.
Yeah.
So I started to do that, started to feel a lot less concerned at that point. Never deployed it. Never got to a point where I felt like I had to. I usually could just calm the dog down if it was barking at me. Usually it's those little yappy ones that aren't
I'm
going to
so
be anything
surprised,
more than
but yeah, it
annoying.
makes sense, because I just think of I didn't realize that we had that, I guess, issue here in Houston.
It's not that bad, but there are certain pockets of it for sure. So, gosh, you want me to go? That was like the low. We could go through some of the amusing,
tell me some fun and
amusing
cool things.
anecdotes. At the end of the day, the highlights are the sculptures, the murals, the art, tons and tons of art around the city of Houston, everywhere you go. So much that I had no idea even existed. Have you heard of a park called Smither Park?
I don't think
so. It's by University of Houston and the Orange Show. It's this small park in a neighborhood. It's just got mosaics on everything. Yeah. Every swing set, every gazebo is just 100% covered with a little mosaic art. And there's some sculptures in there. And I spent probably like 45 minutes in this park in the middle of a 12-mile run, probably just taking photos, enjoying it. And that was really great. But I think the favorite moments were times when I actually interacted with someone. I would wave to people, obviously, a lot of the time, but I helped an older woman get her garbage can out of her ditch. It had fallen in the ditch after getting picked up, and I was like, felt a nice little Boy Scout moment Samaritan. Right there. Yeah. In the third ward, I saw a guy just sort of sitting in a little plaza with a bunch of lawn chairs, playing his saxophone for a crowd of probably 12 or 15 people. Great player. And so, I'm doing a long run. I'm getting within earshot and then going way out of earshot and then getting back into earshot. And finally I said, I'm just going to stop and listen to this guy for 5-10 minutes and take that moment. And that for sure was a highlight. And in downtown Houston, a guy's car was stalled, and I helped him push his car from the street into a parking lot. So that was another one where like, look, I'm making the community a little bit better.
Yeah, we might have
today,
to call you
right?
John Houston, because you know the ins and outs of it, and you're just the Boy Scout of Houston.
Yeah, well, I do need to give one other shout out where shout outs are due. There's a guy, Brandon LeBlanc, who is on his own quest to run every street in all of Houston. And whereas for me, I'm like, this is a project. I'm going to get this done kind of as quickly as is reasonable. I wasn't doing this 7 days a week, obviously. I was doing probably 3 or 4 days a week. I would make progress on this.
Okay.
But Brandon's looking at it as a 20-year time horizon kind of project. He's got kids too. So he's gradually cranking it out. And he is a really great guy. He's involved with this charity called Catapult that assists with blind runners here
Okay.
in Houston. And he's sort of been using that as an avenue to raise awareness for that organization. And as great as it was to meet him and get to do a few runs with him where we're just running our silly Etch-a-Sketch looking routes, I did sort of realize that I missed a good opportunity to make this a charitable cause. And especially at the end when I had so much support, I thought, man, if I had gotten everybody to put even $10 into some sort of organization, it would have made a big difference. So
more
to
going
come.
forward.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's hindsight's 2020, right? But you still have the opportunities to do that.
Absolutely.
Similar way that I'm using my platform because of previous experiences. You know, I want to pass on good information to other people and help them be advised and just learn the ins and outs of an athletic mindset as well. But yeah, you can still do that. Do you have any other organizations in mind that you are currently working towards helping?
Yeah. So I think it was just last weekend was International Women's Day, right? And
Yes.
just last weekend. And I've found an organization called Free to Run, which is it supports women in countries like Afghanistan and Iraq, and they're going towards Palestine next, where women historically have had very few freedoms, and they organize social programs, athletic-based programs that sort of aim to build these women's leadership skills and physical activity skills. And I ran a marathon for International Women's Day with them that it was essentially called the Safe Marathon to raise awareness for the fact that a lot of women have been harassed or worse and certainly felt uncomfortable while running. And that resonates a lot with me because doing what I did in Houston is inherently something that, you know, I'm not the only person to have run every street in a city. There are a lot of other people who have embarked on a project, some similarly scoped, some even more complex. There's a guy I'm following who's doing every street in Rhode Island. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
But that is something that there are not many women in the world who would feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And realizing this privilege that I have had makes me want to give back to pay it forward, right?
That's beautiful. I appreciate that. It is, I mean, yeah, when you were telling me the times of day that you run, yeah, for me, just when it's dark, you just can't really, it becomes unsafe.
Yeah, that was a consideration in the Running the Street project as well, because there are certainly plenty of neighborhoods that I wanted to avoid when it was dark.
Right.
And I was very conscious. It's like the most consciously I've ever watched daylight savings is when I was doing this project, because all of a sudden in November, it goes from getting dark at, we'll say 6:45 to like 5:30, 5:45.
Yeah.
And again, since I'm going after work most of the time, I said, all right, I'm going to shift over towards, I don't know where I went, Bel Air, West U, somewhere like that, where I could reliably go out for a few more hours at night and get those miles in.
It makes a difference. But it's good that you're strategic about it. That it makes sense why you've been able to accomplish this. I have a question. Do you have any role models or people that you look up to in the running world, or not even the running world, just people that are mentors that you look up to?
I have a lot in the running world for sure. I think anyone who has kind of taken their twist on the sport and gone with it, you know, the Eliud Kipchoge's and Kelvin Kiptum RIPs of the world that have the marathon records are amazing. But Alexander Sorokin, the Lithuanian guy who has the record in the 100-mile and 100K and like the most distance in 24 hours, I think that is just absolutely crazy. The level of discipline and mental fortitude you have to go sub 7-minute mile for literally an entire day.
Insane.
I can go for 4 hours, maybe a little bit more, and that's great. But there are people who go way above and beyond that. one guy I followed who I really admire is called the Hardest Geezer, Russ Cook. He's running from South Africa all the way to the northern tip of Africa.
Oh, wow.
And making YouTube videos. There's another guy, Dio Cato, who's also doing a similar project, Cape Town to London. And these people are all using it as a way to raise money for charity, get themselves out there, and truly challenge themselves in a way that is absolutely mad, right? Anyone who can run the whole Pacific Crest Trail, or anyone who can, I don't know, run for 4 days straight. Like these guys are all over YouTube that you can find, and even the women that do it as well, right? Camille Herron, Courtney Dahlwalter. So much respect to anyone who can just push themselves to the limit, and seeing these athletes do that kind of stuff kind of in a way motivates me to do it myself.
Yeah.
Without that social media, like,
Yeah.
oh God, I gotta be as good as these people.
No,
if
definitely.
if I can't run a marathon every day in a row for a month, then I'm worthless. Like
No.
that's not how I'm approaching it. Again, at the end of the day, it's me trying to be the best me that I can be someone that the you in 10 years, 20 years will look back on and be proud of.
Yeah, definitely. And you have a lot to be proud of, even this far. And I know that you have a bright future ahead, which I'm excited to dive into your goals in a second. But I did want to say that whenever, because we're social media friends, whenever you post your runs, I was like, okay, I need to go running too. I'm like, John's running, I'm trying to get fit for football season. But how do you stay motivated? Because I personally struggle with motivation, and I would say that I'm disciplined, but there are days where I just need a day off, or I'm too sore, or something comes up. Like, how do you pivot from that, and how do you stay motivated?
I appreciate that quip. Somebody said, like, John, your social media makes me want to go play outside, and I'm like, that's the only type of influencer I ever want to be. And I think you've got to sort of approach it from a long-term perspective, a delayed gratification sort of perspective, that it's going to take me a long time to get where I need to be, but every day counts, right? And if you're someone who does even 15, 20 miles a week, and you go straight to doing 40 miles a week, you're going to get shin splints. You're going to get something, unless you're being really, really diligent with your recovery. You need to work your way up there. And I'm very fortunate to be at a point where I've kind of sustained this for really since COVID started. And I again, spending most of my days just in my house at my computer, wanting to get at least outside for a smidgen of the day. That is something that personally motivates me. But even on those days that I take off, that I do yoga, bike, core, any of that kind of stuff, I say this is, part of the journey. I at least want to do something to get my heart rate up every single day, because this world we live in is just so naturally inclined towards being sedentary.
Yeah. Well, you have this self-awareness. Where did you get it from? Yeah, I mean, seriously, because I sit here as like a sports psychology consultant trying to teach people this. So that's why I'm asking you, because I want to know what your motivator is and why. Like, what's your why? We're trying to teach other people what you have. How are you so disciplined? I'm a professional athlete. Like, how can I be as disciplined as you?
I just got to say it's because I listened to Siobhan's podcast.
No, mine's more of like, you got to go through it.
I mean, that's something for me that I think is different from a lot of athletes. Is I've never had a coach. I've never had to, let's, like, when I'm training for the Grand Canyon, I know I got to do at least a 50K to get prepped to run 46 miles, right? But I never let this sport be a burden to me, if that makes sense. Even if I woke up and said it's going to be a great day, I'm going to run 10 miles today. If I start feeling like my hips bothering me at lunchtime, I'll just say, no, we'll tone it back. We'll do like 5K today. It's fine. And maybe I'll add some core instead.
Okay. So there's not too much pressure on yourself or on your body at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Try to stay in a point where you're doing it for the love of the game or just for the love of getting out there and being in nature, right? And that is something I think I was hinting at earlier when I said I did 3 to 4 runs on the 610 Street project a week, right?
Yes.
But I was still running 6 days a week most weeks, right? And if I wasn't, I was back on my favorite trails where I could just pop in my tunes and do what I love. White Oak Bayou, Buffalo Bayou, Memorial Park, Rice University, right? Going to the places that I just genuinely enjoy being at rather than, oh God, I gotta drive out to God knows where again and just spend time looking at my phone because I didn't really plan the routes that far in advance. I was like, I'm gonna cover this area, but
shoot, how do I do this?
I didn't like program the whole route in my phone, so I did have to do a lot of just like grabbing my phone, saying, oh no, I have already been here. Let me double back or something like that.
Okay. Wait, so you use Strava? You mentioned.
Yeah.
Is there a way to like preset a route where it can take you somewhere? Oh, I had no idea. I don't remember.
Yeah. Usually that's a premium feature on any sort of map my run type apps.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to do it manually, you could set the GPX data on your computer and program it into your watch or your phone or something like that. Yeah.
Good point. What watch do you use or would you recommend to a runner?
I need to up my watch game, Siobhan. I've not.
I'm saying it like loud so the sponsors can hear.
Garmin.
We need to get this man sponsored.
No, I have not invested in a like $500 plus watch. I've got Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Galaxy watch, so they align together pretty well. But and there's actually a funny story on this one with my watch. Per mile faster than my watch, and
we don't know which
if you're going to choose. Yeah, if you're going to choose, do you want to take the one that's faster or the one that's slower, the one with more distance or less? But I have had times with my phone where, say you're in like downtown or something where there's a lot of tall buildings, or you're in New York City or something where the GPS will drift. It won't track with you 100% perfectly. Whereas a watch is, I would say, pretty much 100% reliable.
Okay.
So you can actually, if you look on my 610 Streets running map, that the interactive map that I have, there are a few little squigglies that are clear just GPS drift errors. But
you just chase a dog out of the path.
Oh yeah, it looks like it went right through somebody's house. So, but for those. I just said, I remember where I went that day. I know I did cover this street, even though it's kind of jumbled on the map. So if there's a hater out there who says you need to go back and actually log it, then I
are people watching you that closely?
I don't think with that much disdain or hatred.
No. Maybe soon when somebody tries to replicate what you've done, potentially.
Well, they won't be the first. So I got that going.
Yeah, well, there you go. And so, okay, new goals moving forward. Tell us what you are focused on at the moment, and I guess time frame. And yeah,
it's got to be SMART goals, right? You got to put the timeliness to it. I've tried to think about what makes me unique as a person and how I can leverage that in a way that makes other people happy. And for me, it's the love for traveling and the love for long distance running. And I am not afraid, having now run every street here in Houston 610 Loop, that I'm not afraid to just put my bag on and go log a marathon somewhere completely foreign. And I've done this twice now. I've just got 2 now. But just reels on Instagram where I'm following myself as I do a self-supported marathon. And I think I want to, first goal, make 20 of those videos. Because that will also push me towards doing 100 marathons, which I think is a great long-term goal. Like I've got 100 visit 100 countries in the back of my mind as like a long-term goal. No real timeline on either of those, but just like it's there. And I think that'll be a good way to work through again and filming myself doing the exact same thing. So I'm fortunate to be able to travel a lot, got friends' weddings, got just solo trips planned in the future, and I'm trying to find some good routes that I can stake out whenever I go somewhere. And yeah, I always want to push the comfort zone. You know, I know you can push the comfort zone too far and get yourself in a dangerous place, but I'm at the point where a marathon is within the comfort zone, right? And if I were to go and say, all right, I'm going to go to Thailand and run 100K, like I would probably need a little bit of extra, maybe like get a friend to come out with me and support me in doing that, make sure that I can actually make it across the line. But I think I love to run marathons. I think I get to a point where the emotions really kick in during that. There's a high, there's when you hit the wall, there's a wall at some point in there. But if I just mind over matter and say, all right, I'm at 21, I just got to give it another 40 minutes, I'll get through it. There's something really satisfying and a story that I have for the rest of my life in each one.
Nice. So your self-talk is important. That's a mental skill I try to improve with athletes as well, is like what you say to yourself. It's make or break. You could tell yourself that you're done, you're tired, and you'll quit. So you clearly, once you hit a wall, like you just mentioned, what do you tell yourself? 40 more minutes, but what else? What other? You can be real. I mean, you're like, don't stop running, don't be a little bitch, or what? I don't know. Seriously.
I try not to be negative with myself. I mean, in some ways, there's the social media aspect of it, right? This is going to end up on Strava when I'm done, and are people going to see that I went 8 minutes per mile, or are they going to see that I went 7:45 per mile? And
a little social pressure, not bad.
Are they going to see? Because
the fans,
you can look. You can look if somebody paused. You can see it. Oh, it's like, John ran that fast, but he paused for 20 minutes. Like, I don't know.
He was hunching over.
And no offense to anyone who pauses mid-activity.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. But self-talk is important.
I mean, I have a lot of time to kill, right? you got to get in your head and psych yourself up. And this, if I'm gonna do reels and like film myself, I'm thinking of doing tripod too. Like, you can see me go and you can see me leave, and that way you kind of get a different perspective than just me taking selfies the entire time. But if you say, okay, I'm another 2.5 miles closer, another 10%, let me get another shot, because inevitably I'll probably have slightly changed scenery. There's probably something else going on.
Yeah, definitely.
When I was running the streets, it was I gotta just keep cranking away at it. There's only one way to finish it, and it's to keep moving forward.
I was also going to say there's only one way home. You've run so far, and maybe you have to run back.
Oh yeah. Well, one funny part with that is there's obviously plenty of step retracing. You know, you can't do it 100% efficiently, but whenever I would finish, 2 segments that there were leftovers, or sometimes I would just say, I'm going to go do this area and not know that it was more than 20 miles. And I did 12 and I'm like, okay, I'm tired. I'm done for today. I'll come back and finish the rest of this. There were a lot of missing pieces, little gaps I had to go in and fill in. And, those were painstaking. There were three times I got a friend to help me out and basically chauffeur me. So I would just run 3 streets and get picked up at the end, rather than having to retrace the steps and go back into my car. But I think there were another probably 5 or 6 days where I just drove out, recorded a 0.06 mile run, got back in my car, drove for another 5 minutes to do it again. That was one of the toughest parts, to be honest, because I'm like... Because
that's you saying, like, I have to complete it, I have to check this off. I didn't actually do it, and you want to fill it.
Yeah, it's for the sake of completeness, right? And admittedly, I was not probably as attentive as I should have been on the road too. I'm like looking at my phone. It's like, okay, is it this street that I missed or is it this street? And I'm glad I put the eyes on the road. Didn't get into any fender benders or something doing that.
Yeah. Could be Houston. You never know.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
You brought back a memory for me. You mentioned that someone had chauffeured you around before. Actually, when I was staying at your place one time in the summer, I went for a run, found myself near Eleanor Tinsley Park, and I didn't realize how long it was going to take me. I think it was like maybe 4 miles or 3.5 at that point, and I had to be somewhere. So I was like, I can't run back in this amount of time, so I had to call myself an Uber and get back. But
yeah, no, that's a real one.
Lifeline.
I mean, because I'm trying to get out there most days. If I got dinner at 7,
Yeah.
I gotta work backwards. Like, all right, there's a drive, there's a shower, there's a put on clothes. So
Everything's calculated.
Absolutely no more than 70 minutes of a run this afternoon or something like that.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, if that's where I'm limited, this is the route I'm gonna go do, whatever.
You're very prepared. I can tell that, and that's good.
Because I do wake up every day like, all right, I just got to make it through work and then I get to go for a run. That's what really motivates me is being outside. And I love my job, don't get me wrong, but I really enjoy getting to be out in nature beyond that.
Could you imagine if running was your job?
It would take on a much different role. And I think the route to do it would be through some sort of influencer coaching or like organizing group kind of thing.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you had any interest in coaching or organizing groups. I know that, your days must be booked from, 6 to 8, right? But you're like, I got some time in there. You could.
I'm not a huge run club guy, to be honest. I've been out to run clubs and enjoyed them, but I've got a great network of friends outside of that. I've got my buddies that I try to go running with once a weekend, and I don't really like to talk while I run.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's a way to get to know you. I've been on dates where you go for a run together. But
great date.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not because of your exertion. It's because of your nerves. Oh my gosh.
Wait. Would you mind talking about that? That actually sounds kind of funny, like a fun date idea. Go for a run.
Well, yeah, if I'm swiping on an app, I see someone's a runner, I'm like, all right, that's at least one thing we have in common. And I would say early COVID, right? That was a time when I think those were the only 2 times when that was like a first date, was going for a run, because couldn't go to a bar. They were still closed.
Fair, yeah.
And I think you gotta set an expectation at the beginning, right? Like, what kind of pace is comfortable for you? I don't want you to be huffing and puffing while I'm just asking you about your family or something like that. I don't know.
That's funny. I would do that, but for a walk.
That's what most people would do. Yeah. And I'm happy to meet you in the middle.
At some point you're like, okay, let's take a break.
Just don't tell me we're going for a run, but then make it a walk instead. If I'm in the mood for a run, then it's going to be a bit of a letdown.
And you're trying to knock out 2 birds with 1 stone.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe I take a warm-up run on the way there.
Okay. So we talked about your 6'10". Would you tell us a little bit more about your website? What can viewers find on your website, and what are you hoping to put on there in the future?
Yeah. So I work in a technology company. I'm a product manager. I'm not an engineer, but I dabble, right? I dabble with writing code. I was a statistics major, and I knew that I should have some sort of creative endeavor to accompany this running project. And I'm not a blog guy. I'm not a vlog guy. I was posting stories on Instagram throughout, got a lot of support through that, but I realized that I could just build a website from scratch.
Yeah.
And honestly, ChatGPT did most of the work. Give credit where credit's due. But as long as you
shout out AI.
I tells you how to put the elements on a page. I said, give me a interactive Google map that displays photos from Google Drive and has thumbnails for the icons. And you've got it right there. You have to do all the Google Maps authentication stuff on the side, but you can buy a empty website for $9 a year. And I first purchased John ran every street in the 610loop.com, which
Jesus.
I don't know why I thought that was a good idea at first, because it was the most accurate, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, no one's gonna find that. And then I said, all right, $9, not breaking the bank. I'll purchase runwithjohn.com. So runwithjohn.com, pull it up, no H in the John. It was, my sort of story of, what did my roommate call it? A digital scrapbook.
Yes,
I really like that
I love
phrase.
digital scrapbooks.
And I took screenshots throughout of the map with the progress, and then of course have the interactive Google Map, all the different photos I took throughout, which 500 plus stories, every single one right there.
Cool.
Put a little FAQ, little blog, because I did some journaling throughout. I'll do journaling when I'm traveling. I figured this was a good excuse to do some writing as I was doing it. But yeah, I think as I sort of mature the marathons, traveling side of my running identity, and start creating more of that, then there will be a time to update the website to reflect that more, and have the pages that I wrote for the 610 loop journey still accessible somewhere on the back end, but keep using it as a way to share what I'm working on, and how I'm finding new ways to make this sport interesting. Or who knows, maybe I'll start taking up a totally different sport at some point.
Frisbee?
But I love Frisbee. That's one sport that I'll play all day long. Yeah, ultimate Frisbee. Like soccer is another sport that is just a slight practical application of running, right? You don't need much more than some cones and a projectile, I guess, a ball or a disc.
Yeah. One of those work.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I'll be a runner for the rest of my life, and that's where I found so much of my identity so far, and there's still so many new ways I can challenge myself. I do understand though, I turned 30 last year, and it's not going to get any easier, right? There are people who are in their 60s and run like absolute madmen, right? So the decline is very slow, but if you don't watch yourself, then something's gonna happen to you. And that's another factor that motivated me to start doing yoga a bit more, mixing in the stationary bike a little bit more. Maybe I'll invest in a nice road bike and try to do that a little bit more.
Yeah.
I went to a sports medicine clinic to kind of get the paces analyzed, get the gait analyzed. I think it was worth it. It was a lot of money for her to tell me you're striding your left foot further than your right, but I got a lot of other good information out of it that I will carry with me and be more conscious of. Since, as I mentioned, as I was finishing the 3,000 mile a year project, I did start to feel my hip, my TFL band a little bit more. And having been conscious of that since that happened, and since I went to the sports med clinic, I've only gotten faster. I've only been smarter with taking more shorter strides, not overextending myself in any way, and of course being more responsible with stretching and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because my other question to kind of conclude was, how do you recover, and what advice would you give to other athletes who are runners? So I guess to reverse that, how do you recover? Question one. And then two, what advice would you give to an aspiring runner or somebody who is currently trying to, run
get
more,
into
it, but also if they're already into it, how to get better and how to stay focused.
Yeah. So when it comes to staying focused, it's got to be about whether you're finding the motivation intrinsically or extrinsically. And I'm a lucky one. I know I'm a lucky one to be just so naturally inclined to love this sport so much. Whether you like running or want to do it on the side to help get you better at your other sport with whatever you play, if it takes extrinsic motivation, that's a reason that going to a run club can be really beneficial. You say, this is a part of my Thursday night. Every night I go here 7:00, do 5 miles. Maybe I have that motivation of I get a beer afterward from whatever brewery is hosting the run club, maybe. Sign yourself up for a race. And I think once you have that moment where it really clicks and you say, I can really push myself, then you won't be chasing the stick. You'll be carrying the stick or whatever that would be. Yeah. And then other final question was what recovery. Yeah. So again, yoga is great. Yoga is something that every runner should be doing at least 2-3 times a week. Like, you can just go on YouTube, yoga for runners. That's pretty much all I do. Yeah. I'm gonna start going to Siobhan's class, hopefully.
Yeah.
But stretch before and after. A lot of people don't do that. That's an obvious one. And
we would think.
You would think, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Get a foam roller, get a massage gun. You don't need to spend $200 on the Theragun. There are much cheaper ones. Yeah, they won't probably last as long, but after I lost one, I'm like, I'm not going to spend $100 on one of these because I'm probably going to lose it again.
Yeah, there's also a lot. I lose a lot of things, but you can get something like Target or Walmart these days equivalent.
Yeah, but no, after I do a marathon, that is one non-negotiable is I either roll it out or I Theragun it out. And you could squeeze that thing in your carry-on luggage.
Mm-hmm. Do you go to get a massage, or do you do like ice baths or Epsom salt baths? How do you?
I don't.
Really?
I don't. I could. I mean, I think I should. If I'm going to do a 50 mile or 100K or something like that, then I think I would want to be more responsible after that. I did do cold water after the Grand Canyon. I remember sitting in a hotel room in the Grand Canyon with ice water, eating a hamburger and fries from whatever restaurant in the park, and it took me like 45 minutes to get out of the tub, finish my hamburger. So I think the more you're putting yourself through strain like that, the more important it becomes.
And sleep. How many hours?
Oh, I love the sleep.
I was about to say, you must be exhausted.
Oh yeah. I can use the runner excuse to Irish goodbye from a party. I hate to do it, but it's like, oh, you guys are going to another bar and it's already 12. I gotta run in the morning. Sorry. I usually sleep between 8 and 9 hours a night on a good day. Yeah, like 10 to 7, 11 to 7 sort of schedule.
Wow.
And I can get by with 6 or 7 hours of sleep, but if I have like 5 or 6 hours of sleep for multiple days in a row, it'll take a toll on me.
Yeah, it'll be noticeable.
And I sure do like drinking beer for my detriment.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
When I mentioned beverages, I didn't hear beer coming up.
Hey, there are a lot of runners who like beers too.
Yeah, you need the carbs.
You do need the carbs. You do need the carbs. It's either that or you're eating bread or rice all the time. Mm-hmm. But if you're gonna wake up and do 14 miles after you've had 7 drinks the night before, it's not going to be fun. I've gotten to the point where I can do it, but it's not going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, thank you so much. I hope that whoever is listening or knows John learned something and it feels a little bit more motivated intrinsically to go forward with their own personal goals. If there isn't anything else that you'd like to share, we can conclude here, but the floor is yours. If I maybe forgot something. No,
I really appreciate you having me. Yeah, I mean, I've already shouted a few people out. Shout out to everyone who came to celebrate at the end. I had almost 20 friends come.
That's
and
amazing.
My parents come to Discovery Green to the final street of the project.
The final finish line.
It was really sweet. They got some streamers, made a finish line. That's all I got.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. We're going to link your Instagram and your website so you guys can connect with John, ask him all the questions. He's more than willing to answer
find
them.
me on Strava. Let's go for a run together.
Strava too.
I'm
yeah.
always down.
How many Strava friends do you have?
Oh, I was an early adopter. I was there in 2018, and I was just kind of screaming into the void for a while. I had like 3 friends for a while, but in the hundreds somewhere.
Okay.
Not enough to where I'm like overwhelmed scrolling through it and like trying to, who are these people?
Yeah.
But
that's so fun though. Another form of
you meet people through it, and coolest story with that. I know we're trying to finish, but I saw a guy. He was running with me on Memorial Park, running real fast, and we ran long enough together that Strava said we like ran the whole run together. I'm like, oh look, I got a new friend from this, and now we'll funny. Like each other. Give each other kudos, comment on each other's stuff every now and then. So
there you go.
Yeah,
that's
never
cool.
know how something's gonna work out. Never know when you'll find someone who's like in your town because of Strava, or someone who's at the same race as you, and it continues to be a very small world.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, John. Seriously, hearing about your story and your insight has been a pleasure, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Siobhan. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yay. Thank you. Bye, everyone.